Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Friday, May 16th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Lac du Bonnet and the surrounding area are grieving the loss of 2 people who died in the ongoing wildfire.
The news of this loss of life changes what was an emergency into a tragedy.
On Wednesday, RCMP confirmed the deaths.
It's awful, and I'm very sorry for that family.
Multiple sources have identified the victims as Rich and Sue Noel. Where Noel worked, the business was shut down Thursday with a sign that said closed for compassionate reasons.
She, very friendly, would talk to anyone, very creative.
There is also a GoFundMe page for the family.
I worked with one of them directly, and it was a very good experience, and I know that the volunteerism that was demonstrated all the time was huge.
It's heartbreaking, but you know, everyone's being very supportive.
The community is coming together during this tragedy. These volunteers are making soup and sandwiches at the local arena.
Just to help out anyone who's been displaced, we're delivering to the RCMP members that are at the checkpoints and anyone else who's working on crews.
Fire 62 near Lac du Bonnet is still listed as out of control at about 4,000 hectares. Crews have been able to make good progress on that fire.
And while there is progress, 1,000 people have been displaced from their homes and cottages.
Looked out the window and it looked like someone had lit a nuclear bomb off at our place. The clouds were just black, and I've never seen anything like it.
The RM says 28 cottages and homes have been lost.
That doesn't include certainly the boathouses and some of the other structures that were right on the shoreline, you know, storage facilities, etc. That's specifically just the 28 cottages, dwellings.
Now, we were also told today that there is a chance that some people could be allowed back in their homes where there's very little or no damage, but that is not for sure. That could happen as early as this evening, but again, that's not a for sure thing. We're also told that the Premier is visiting the area today.
Jeff, have we learned anything more about the cause of this fire?
The province now lists it as human-related, but all officials would say today is that it remains under investigation.
All right, thanks for this, Jeff.
It's called A Plan to Protect Ontario, mirroring the Progressive Conservative campaign slogan in a world unsteadied by tariffs.
It'll be a great budget.
A hit from the U.S. the finance minister sees as a wake-up call.
Ontario and all of Canada are at a precipice, and we need to take serious steps to make sure we do not find ourselves anywhere near the bottom.
That includes pushing a balanced budget to the back burner. In last year's budget, the plan was for a $4.6 billion deficit this year. Now that hole is $10 billion deeper. Think $14.6 billion. The government projected a small surplus next fiscal year. Instead, it's $7.8 billion in the hole, with a projected surplus in 2027-2028. The budget includes some $30 billion in tariff relief measures, among them $9 billion worth of tax deferrals, up to $5 billion into a Protecting Ontario account to help companies, $50 million for a fund to help companies retool, find new markets, and reshore their supply chains, $40 million to help organizations hit by tariffs, and $20 million to train and support laid-off workers. But will it be enough to keep Ontario out of a recession?
I'm not going to speculate on what may happen. We're trying to fortify and immunize Ontario as best possible.
The budget bakes in help for drivers, making a cut to the gas tax permanent and taking tolls off Highway 407 between Pickering and Clarington.
This budget talks a lot about cars and infrastructure, doesn't talk a lot about actually investing in people.
The finance minister defends his approach.
People go out and spend it. Businesses reinvest in their business. They hire more people. That's stimulative for the economy.
The government plans to spend almost $233 billion over the next year. The biggest chunk, $91 billion, or 39%, goes to health care. Next is $44 billion to other programs and $41 billion on education. The opposition sees this budget as a Band-Aid.
It makes $1.2 billion in cuts to post-secondary education. It doubles down on housing failures. And there are no solutions for communities with closed emergency rooms and delayed hospitals.
Revenue from the LCBO and taxes on booze are down since alcohol sales have been allowed in convenience stores.
Ontario is losing $400 million in revenue that could have gone and should have gone to schools and hospitals.
The government says people are drinking less, and pulling U.S. booze off LCBO shelves is having an effect.
Ontario is pouring tens of millions of dollars into the alcohol marketplace over the next few years, trying to increase the percentage of Ontario grapes in blended wines. And there are tax cuts coming, too, for microbrewers and distillers. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Here in Vieux-Terrebonne, voters are still trying to make sense of what's happened in their riding. Liberal candidate Tatiana Auguste beat the Bloc Québécois candidate by one single vote. Then it was reported one voter had her mail-in ballot returned because Elections Canada made a mistake printing their own postal code on her ballot envelope. She says her vote was for the Bloc, which would have made the election a tie.
Le vote de la jeune femme n'a pas été compté. Il y a trop d'hommes.
Elections Canada now says 5 more mail-in ballots with the wrong postal code printed on the envelope were received late and not counted. Elections Canada says they cannot say for sure whether the votes were late because of the wrong postal code or because the voters simply sent them in late. The ballots have not been opened, and we do not know which candidates the votes were for. Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet is challenging the results in court and is calling for a second election in the riding.
There may be wrongdoing without the intention of performing wrongdoing. It's, of course, a mistake, which has been admitted with the consequences of this admission.
And many here agree.
Il faut que tu corriges l'erreur. Tu peux pas laisser ça comme ça. Moi, je souhaiterais qu'on rétablisse ça en faisant d'autres élections.
Others say they're ready to move on, adding what's happened since could cause people to change their vote, and that isn't fair either.
On peut pas revenir en arrière, mais ce n'est pas juste.
Despite the uproar, Elections Canada says the results are final, adding it cannot legally rerun an election. Matt Gilmore, CTV News, Terrebonne.
A loud message from Alberta's First Nations leaders outside of the legislature.
These are treaty lands. They are not yours to take.
Thursday, hundreds protested Premier Danielle Smith, her UCP government, and its Bill 54. The now passed legislation will make it easier to trigger a public vote, including one on separating from Canada.
Maybe she thinks First Nations people are in the way. And it's about time that we rise and stand up in a peaceful way.
All of Alberta is comprised of treaty lands and national parks, so chiefs argue leaving isn't really up to separatists or the province. One human rights expert compares the entire conversation to colonialism.
So the assumption that political ideology can overrule or override constitutionally protected rights is a very dangerous proposition for anybody, never mind just First Nations.
Alberta made 11th-hour changes to the bill Wednesday, declaring no separation referendum question could threaten First Nations' existing treaty rights. But as of now, it's unclear what that actually means or how it'll be implemented. We asked the Justice Minister about it, but we're told he would not do an interview.
It is lip service. I've seen this language in so many agreements. It's oftentimes what a non-Indigenous decision makers put into agreements or into legislation or whatever, and it does nothing.
The amendment has not appeased First Nations either. Onion Lake Cree Nation, near the Alberta-Saskatchewan boundary, is pushing ahead with litigation against the province's Sovereignty Act, a different piece of controversial legislation. It says it's doing so in response to the Premier's ongoing rhetoric.
And her government is willing to manipulate laws, intimidate First Nations, and control public opinion to push the separatist agenda.
Meanwhile, new Leger data shows support for the idea isn't changing. 29% of those polled support Alberta becoming independent, while 67% are opposed to it. Still, 62% of Albertans believe other Canadians don't understand the reasons why some may feel alienated.
Eastwood Collegiate Institute in Kitchener closed Thursday after at least one confirmed case of the measles.
So it is a serious disease. It does cause high rates of illness. It's also very infectious. So it's an airborne disease.
Waterloo Region Public Health says the person who had it was last at the school May 8th, with possible exposure that day or May 7th, but say they didn't hear about the confirmed case until Wednesday.
This is our first exposure in a Waterloo Region Public School Board school.
Officials say it's too early to say if others have been infected and that they're working with the Waterloo Region District School Board to follow up with people who may have been exposed.
Most people who may have been exposed won't start developing symptoms if they were infected really until day 7, but it can be anywhere up to 21 days after their exposure.
Late Thursday afternoon, the Waterloo Catholic District School Board announced St. Mary's Catholic Secondary School is closing Friday after a confirmed case of measles there. The Associate Medical Officer of Health in Wellington, Dufferin Guelph, says no matter what community, measles in a school setting is risky.
If you have someone who is infectious with measles inside a school, others who are inside that school are at risk of being exposed, and a single case of measles in a school can have a dramatic impact on the school population.
An infectious disease specialist says sending kids home might be the right move to prevent the spread.
The key thing here is communicating not just to the students, but also to their parents and the family members that, hey, there was a potential exposure.
The region saying while it is the board's decision to close a school, it is only done out of an abundance of caution, adding that those who aren't fully vaccinated would be more susceptible to measles, and they're asking those people to be more cautious.
Avoiding people who have children under 1, pregnant individuals, or again, immune-compromised persons. But we're not strictly necessarily isolating unless someone develops symptoms, and then we follow up as appropriate for that.
Typical symptoms of measles include a fever, runny nose, or red eyes. In severe cases, it can cause brain inflammation or death. Anyone who thinks they may have been exposed is asked to stay home.
We just found out moments ago that Eastwood Collegiate will remain closed tomorrow. It is unclear how long St. Mary's will stay closed, but as mentioned earlier, it is closed starting tomorrow. In a statement about an hour ago, the Catholic School Board says it is expected to provide an update to the community by Monday, adding that the closure tomorrow of St. Mary's will give the region the time needed to identify and connect with those who may not be fully immunized.
They have a whole area back here where they have all kinds of housing.
Touring the Vancouver Overdose Prevention Society is one of the ways a new provincial consultant has spent his time on the downtown east side. Michael Bryant was hired by the NDP government to act as an eye and ear in the neighborhood.
We don't know much about his role, what the mandate is, the deliverables, the timeline, and what the outcome of it will be. But we do have some hope.
His appointment came as a surprise to many in the community. The province quietly publishing his role online earlier this month, saying it intended to announce it earlier. BC's Conservative leader calling it a pattern.
They're trying to sweep it under the carpet and hide it. Same sort of thing with the hiring of Mr. Bryant, the same sort of thing with the safe supply.
Bryant's 6-month contract costs around $150,000, plus an allowance of $25,000 in expenses. CTV News contacted Bryant for an interview Thursday, but he did not respond. The government says he was hired to advise on how it can better coordinate ministry supports and consult with those who live and work here.
He was curious about our operations, how we were servicing the community, and he was very inquisitive about our processes and really interested in understanding what the opportunities were to work with the government.
I have a lot of confidence in Michael Bryant. I met him when he was doing work at Legal Aid BC.
Bryant has had a controversial past. He served as Ontario's Attorney General and in 2009 was charged with criminal negligence, causing death and dangerous driving after a cyclist died. Those charges were later withdrawn.
He's a guy who's gone through quite a personal journey of recovery and understands law, understands politics.
The downtown east side is full of people who have stigma and who have a past, and we're a community of second chances.
Whether Bryant can live up to that is something those in this community are hopeful for. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
Sarah Lyon's commute using OC Transpo has hit a sour note.
OC Transpo has my hands tied.
She teaches at a music school in Manotick, lives in South Ottawa for years, relying on transit to get there.
The transit wasn't great before, but at least it was an option.
She'd have to take an early bus, but it did work for her. Not so much anymore. A massive route overhaul by OC Transpo in late April, she says, has left her without a connection to make it to work on time.
There is no replacement route. There is no equivalent route.
Using the OC Transpo trip planner, I tried to see if there's an option available for Lions, starting the journey from here at Bank and Walkley near her home with the final destination of Manotick. I put in a departure time of both an early morning and mid-afternoon, and no route was available. There is a bus that can get her to Manotick, but it doesn't arrive until after she starts work, and that is not an option.
I typically work between 2 to 9, 3 to 4 days a week here, and with only being able to get here at 4:30 at the earliest by OC Transpo, I'm losing 2-3 hours of income.
OC Transpo says the routes are designed to serve the majority of the population. Some may experience longer travel times, additional transfers, or a longer walk to the bus stop. For now, Lions is taking the O train as far as it will go, paying for Uber or asking her mother for a ride the rest of the way. But that isn't sustainable.
I'm seriously reconsidering my choices. It's been a conversation I've been having with the school's owner because I've been here it'll be 6 years this summer. I love it here. I don't want to leave. My students love me, but I can't make it work anymore.
Katie, David Brown, the councillor for the area, says his office has received numerous complaints about the recent changes and is calling on OC Transpo to restore express routes from downtown to Manotick and Richmond.
CTV's Peter Sperling reporting live for us tonight.
Its slogan is essential to Alberta. Now, NAIT is pausing, possibly scrapping 18 of its programs, a move VP academic Peter Leclerc says is essential to secure the school's bottom line.
We have a variety of different financial pressures that are impacting us. International students is one of it and has been a pretty significant one. We're also seeing increasing costs. We have things like tariffs and that are impacting us.
International enrollment is projected to drop drastically in the next few years after a policy change by the federal government. NAIT uses those higher tuition fees to support expensive or less popular courses.
Just trying to align to best serve the economy and Alberta with the resources that we have.
Certificate and diploma programs in health, computer science, alternative energy, and more will not happen this fall.
It was absolutely shocking. This is a huge number of programs. It seems like a real knee-jerk reaction.
The head of NAIT's Academic Staff Association says up to 100 faculty members could be impacted. They had been gearing up for next semester.
Now they're not preparing. They don't know if they have jobs.
Students partway through the programs will be able to finish their studies. Those who've already enrolled for the fall will be refunded or placed in similar programs at NAIT, not an option for students in the captioning and court reporting course.
It's very upsetting because this program it's the only one in Canada, so there's no other alternative for us.
Tara Teeves graduated this spring, volunteering in the program's student executive. She says demand is high and graduates find work fast, so being on the chopping block is baffling.
We're doing well. I don't know kind of what the review process was. I wish they would have talked to students about it too.
About 450 students are in affected programs. NAIT is contacting them about next steps. The school's board of directors will decide whether the pause becomes permanent in a matter of months. Jeremy Thompson, CTV News, Edmonton.
NB Power's president and CEO is confident there is no link between higher utility bills and newly installed smart meters.
Customers should feel comfortable that we've ruled out a number of items. We've ruled out, the meter accuracy. We've ruled out, our customers being charged for the electricity they're using. We've ruled out, could there be a problem with the metering and billing system?
Clark, along with the firm that conducted the report, answered MLA's questions for 3 hours this morning, leaving politicians mostly satisfied with the findings.
It's not my place to tell ratepayers that the meters are working properly. I mean, my personal opinion, I have no reason to believe that they're not.
We are trying to give people relief at the same time as build the new long-term sustainable model for NB Power.
The big talking point for the utility today was about the province's decision to remove a 2029 target for NB Power to reach a goal of 80% debt to 20% equity. NB Power's debt is around $5 billion.
New Brunswickers need action now, and so we're taking steps like the 10% discount, like the removal of the 2029 deadline to provide relief.
We'll still be working on ensuring that our costs are covered. This is around building up equity to meet our debt reductions.
The Green Party leader says the province can't keep kicking NB Power's debt problems down the road.
They have so many capital demands on their on the plate that they're going to have to deal with. Belledune, Mactaquac, the transmission system itself, and then the unreliable point, the Pro power plant, which is costing a lot of money, putting lots of pressure on their budget.
Lori Clark says NB Power will be applying for another rate increase in the fall. The utility CEO wouldn't say how much the hike will be, but says it will be lower than what it would have been if that 2029 deadline had stayed in place. Ava McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
Stacking kayaks and getting paddleboards ready, Rich Stivrins is anticipating a lot of rentals on this Victoria Day long weekend, if the weather is nice.
There's nothing better than getting out on the water, and so relaxing and refreshing.
With the long weekend, many choose to enjoy the water, but OPP say they need to be safe. Police statistics over the last 5 years indicate 56 paddlers were among the over 130 people who lost their lives in boating mishaps on Ontario lakes. 34 people were canoeists, 17 were kayakers, and 5 were using stand-up paddleboards. And that's why police will be out in full force.
It's the first long weekend. OPP will be on the water, and of course, we want them to be safe.
OPP are asking people to be mindful that falling overboard as well as capsized vessels are the leading causes in boating and paddling deaths.
Sometimes you just want to be daring. Don't be daring out there. It's not friendly. And that's when things happen.
Taylor says a life jacket is the one piece of equipment that you can count on to save your life. Even if you become unconscious in a paddling or boating incident, it will keep you breathing with your head above water.
And you make sure that they're all buckled up. These are nice because a lot of people don't want to wear that because you should have that on at all times. So there's the other type, which is automatic. If you hit the water, it inflates on you.
Police note hazardous waterways, operator inexperience, and alcohol or drug impairment are among other contributing factors in marine deaths.
Drinking in a boat carries the same penalty as if you were driving a car on a highway.
All of which can bring an enjoyable weekend on the water to an abrupt and tragic end. Eric Tashner, CTV News, North Bay.
Personal tributes like trinkets, plastic flowers, and even small fences are being cleared from cemetery plots across Essex.
I'm not happy because I get too much work for this.
Mayor Sherry Bondi says the bylaw meant to keep the ground safe is being enforced, and it's turning into a divisive issue.
They say too much, too many things for cut the grass or something like this. I don't know. But a long time it's still like this. I don't know why.
There's a lot here, but it's, like I said, it's a private family thing.
The town has always had rules about what can be placed on cemetery plots. Items like glassware, rocks, toys, plastic decorations, and non-portable objects aren't permitted.
There's just a lot of stuff that has creeped into the cemetery over the years, and it's time that, that the town staff felt like we should start to address it.
Seasonal items, including wreaths, floral arrangements, and blankets, also have to be removed.
We know that people come to the graveyard and mourn their loved ones. We know that they're bringing angels and toys, and this is part of the grieving process. And, we have family members in here. My family does as well, so I understand that.
Bondi stresses it's a sensitive issue. The town will store items for 30 days before discarding them. Families are urged to ensure their contact information is up to date.
So everything will be bagged up. Everything will be photographed and have, the family on it. And then individuals can contact the Bazaar Landscaping, and they will have them stored, on site. We have a shed here, and it's going to take a while. They're going to do it row by row, so this isn't going to be a fast process. But if you can get out here in advance and remove your items, that's really also ideal, because this is going to take, this is a huge undertaking for our caretakers here.
The mayor says large metal crosses will still be allowed, but other personal items that don't follow the bylaw will be removed. Residents with questions or concerns are asked to reach out to the town. In Colchester, Chris Campbell, CTV News.